When you bite into that warm, freshly baked Subway sandwich, you think you're eating bread, right? Wrong. What I'm about to reveal about Subway bread ingredients will make you question everything you thought you knew about eating fresh. The truth? An entire country's Supreme Court declared that Subway's bread isn't actually bread at all. And that's just the beginning of this rabbit hole. What I discovered goes deeper than you could imagine. We're talking about chemicals banned in other countries, sugar levels that would make candy jealous, and ingredients that belong in your yoga mat, not your mouth. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will change how you look at every single Subway sandwich forever. This nightmare begins in 2014, when a food blogger named Vani Hari made a discovery that sent shockwaves across North America. She wasn't investigating some sketchy back-alley food truck. She was examining the bread from one of the world's largest restaurant chains, with over 37,000 locations worldwide. But the real bombshell dropped 6 years later, in 2020, when Ireland's Supreme Court delivered a verdict that rocked the fast food industry to its core. 5 judges, in a unanimous decision, declared something that should terrify every Subway customer. Their bread legally cannot be called bread. This isn't happening in some remote corner of the world. This is affecting millions of people who think they're making healthier choices by choosing Subway. The implications stretch far beyond Ireland, touching every single person who's ever trusted that Eat Fresh slogan. Let's start with the most disgusting discovery. What's in Subway bread that has no business being there? Picture this. You're doing yoga, rolling out your mat, and that spongy, flexible material beneath your feet. That same chemical compound was being baked into every single Subway sandwich. The chemical is called Azodicarbonamide, and here's what makes this absolutely revolting. It's used to make yoga mats and shoe rubber. When food blogger Vani Hari exposed this Subway bread controversy, she discovered that this industrial foam-blowing agent was being pumped into the dough of millions of sandwiches daily. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. One of the breakdown products derived from this substance is called urethane, a recognized carcinogen. You heard that right? A cancer-causing compound was potentially forming in every bite. The World Health Organization has linked this chemical additive to respiratory issues, allergies, and asthma, and it is banned in Europe and Australia. Think about this. While European countries said absolutely not to this chemical, American consumers were unknowingly consuming it in their healthy lunch choice. The Subway Azodicarbonamide scandal reveals just how different food safety standards can be across the globe. Now, if chemical additives weren't shocking enough, wait until you hear about the Subway bread sugar content. When Ireland's Supreme Court examined Subway's bread, they made a discovery that should make your stomach turn. Subway bread was found to have a sugar content of about 10%. That's not a typo. 10% sugar content. To put this in perspective, according to Ireland's Value-Added Tax Act of 1972, the sugar allowed in a bread product must not be more than 2% of the total weight of flour in the dough. Subway bread's sugar content is 5 times the qualifying limit under law. 5 times. This means Subway's bread has more sugar than many desserts. A 6-inch Subway bread roll contains 3 to 5 grams of sugar except for gluten-free, which has 7 grams. Picture this. You walk into a bakery and ask for bread, but they hand you cake batter instead. That's essentially what's happening here, except it's disguised as a healthy sandwich option. Here's what makes this story even more sinister. The Subway bread scandal wasn't limited to one problematic ingredient. A report finds that azodicarbonamide wasn't just in Subway's bread, it's in hundreds of foods. This means the contamination was widespread, systematic, and honestly, hidden in plain sight. When the yoga mat chemical story broke, a petition calling for its removal received more than 65,000 signatures in just 24 hours. The public outrage was, well, swift and massive. But here's the kicker. The ingredient, azodicarbonamide, is actually approved by the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. So, while other countries were protecting their citizens, American regulatory agencies were essentially saying, yoga mat chemicals in bread, no problem. When confronted with these revelations, Subway's response was as corporate and tone-deaf as you'd expect. Subway said azodicarbonamide is an extremely common bread ingredient that is fully approved and recognized as safe by the FDA. But public pressure mounted. Subway suffered from an onslaught of bad publicity sparked by a food blogger who petitioned the chain to remove the ingredient. Eventually they caved, but only after the damage to their reputation was done. When Ireland ruled their bread wasn't bread, a spokesperson for the popular sandwich chain told the Washington Post, "Subway's bread is, of course, bread." The arrogance is staggering. They're literally arguing with a Supreme Court ruling. Let's talk about what this means for your body. Is Subway bread healthy? The answer should be obvious by now, but let's dig deeper into the horror show. Using azodicarbonamide at maximum allowable levels results in higher levels of urethane in bread that pose a small risk to humans according to the Center for Science in the Public Interest. A small risk? They're literally admitting there's a cancer risk, however minimal. The sugar content creates its own health nightmare. When you think you're eating bread, your body is processing what's essentially a sugar delivery system. This spikes your blood glucose, triggers insulin responses, and contributes to the obesity epidemic that's ravaging developed nations. Subway bread nutrition facts paint a picture of a product that's closer to candy than actual bread, disguised behind marketing slogans about freshness and health. Here's something that will blow your mind. Ironically, long before Subway's case came up, the Irish government changed the law, allowing more sugar in bread. Subway lost the court battle, but won the bread war. Even after losing the legal battle, Subway's influence was so powerful that an entire country changed its bread regulations. Think about that level of corporate power. They literally reshaped national food standards to accommodate their sugar-loaded product. So here we are, at the end of this disturbing journey through Subway's bread deception. We've uncovered yoga mat chemicals, discovered sugar levels that rival desserts, and witnessed a Subway bread lawsuit that exposed the truth about what millions of people consume daily. The Subway bread, not real bread ruling in Ireland isn't just a legal technicality. It's a wake-up call about the processed food industry's manipulation of consumers. When you walk into Subway thinking you're making a healthier choice, you're actually consuming a chemical-laden, sugar-packed imposter that masquerades as bread. Subway bread chemicals represent something much larger and more terrifying: the complete disconnect between what we think we're eating and what we're actually putting into our bodies. If a Supreme Court has to rule that bread isn't bread, what does that say about the state of our food system? The next time you see that "Eat Fresh" sign, remember this: fresh bread doesn't need yoga mat chemicals to maintain its texture, and real bread doesn't contain enough sugar to be legally classified as confectionery. The question isn't whether Subway will change. The question is whether you'll continue to be complicit in this deception by walking through their doors. What other healthy foods are hiding similar secrets? What other corporate lies are we swallowing along with our lunch? That's something worth thinking about the next time you're deciding where to eat. If this investigation opened your eyes to the dark truth about what's really in our food, smash that like button and subscribe for more shocking exposés about the food industry's best-kept secrets. Your health and your right to know what you're eating depends on spreading this information. Don't let them keep you in the dark about what's really on your plate.